Welcome back to the Poker Player Show. Still to come, we get up close and personal with Neil Channing, tackle your poker nightmares, and look ahead to the big tournaments in our poker diary. But before we chat to our guests, let's take a look at the man in action.
You're not losing.
Oh my God. Chance he's had to win the Irish Open title in Parg. He's 2 cards away from doing it.
Yeah, I think we're going to finish up with a very worthy champion and a very popular loser.
A couple jacks for a split. Jack. Jack. Neil Channing has done it, Parg. I tell you what.
Well, he's probably played the best poker anybody's played over the last couple of days, Jesse. He's a worthy champion and a nice guy. I mean, I don't think the tournament could have asked for anything better.
So, Neil, thanks for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about what you've been up to recently.
Well, I'm just on such a busy schedule. I'm trying to play, all this ridiculous amounts of poker that are going on in London and be a businessman at the same time. I'm forever, rushing off to meetings and stuff. Very busy with black belt poker. We're just, at the moment, we're in a very exciting phase. We're trying to add to our team of sponsored pros. So we've got together 40 young, well, not all that young, some of them are as old as me, online players, and we're putting them through their paces, and we're going to pick the best 3 and send them to Australia with a £10,000 package, playing the Aussie Millions. I'm going to go out there with them. I mean, someone needs to look after them. And, yeah, that's taking up a lot of time. The other big news that we've got at the moment is we've just announced that Richard Ashby has joined our team. Chufty himself, a World Series bracelet winner and an overall legend. And, yeah, we're all very excited about that.
Brilliant, so things are going very well. If we go back to 2008...
things were going well there. Yeah, you're right.
How was that, the Irish Open?
Yeah, it was nice. Yeah.
Biggest win so far?
So far, yeah, €801,000. Yeah, it's weird. I remember going to that tournament and just thinking, I hope the cash games are good, and if I get knocked out, at least pray that I get knocked out in the first hour so I don't have to waste a lot of time in a tournament. I think I had 4.5 big blinds left with 20 people left, and I was thinking, this is just going to fizzle out and be really disappointing. And the next thing, some guy was coming up and giving me an enormous comedy cheque.
Have you still got it?
No, I didn't get to keep that. But it's weird, professional poker is a weird thing, especially if you play tournaments. It's like, you have to think of it. Daniel Negreanu wrote something about how you have to give yourself like an hourly rate in the tournaments. And it's like someone gave you 3 years' salary in one go. Or maybe more than 3 years, 801,000. That's quite a good salary, actually.
Spend it carefully. Talk to us a little bit about the WSOPE.
The WSOPE, yeah, it's nice to obviously get bracelets coming to London, and that attracts all the biggest names in poker. I personally wasn't in love with the schedule. I think 5 tournaments, 2 of which are 10,000, is maybe a little elitist. The 2,500 six-max for me was always going to be a very popular event. But the organisers seemed surprised that they had to have 100 alternates and they were queuing around the block to get in. I think if there are 2 tournaments that cost 10,000, of course people are going to look and try and play the 2,500 one, particularly six-max, which everyone likes. No, I mean, I think they're fun events. You get a chance to win a bracelet, and I don't know, I was kind of talking to someone about, would it be as prestigious to win one in Europe as in Vegas? I'm still not convinced, and I think if they water it down even more and go all around the world, maybe it won't have the same appeal.
We shall see. Well, thank you very much, Neil. Now, each month here on the Poker Player Show, we'll be asking you to email us with your questions for our guest so we can give you the best strategy advice, top tips, and generally help you play a better game. Well, that's what we're hoping anyway. So to get in touch, just email us at pokerplayer@pokerchanneleurope.com. You can also find further details on our website, pokerchanneleurope.com, where you can also watch the whole show again on demand. But this month, we start with an email from Lloyd McPherson. I have a question that has been eating away at me. How does tax affect winnings? When the likes of Phil Ivey and Daniel Negreanu win tournaments, do they pay tax, or is it tax-free winnings? Also, is it the same for us mere mortals who might win a major event?
Well, it depends. It depends on where you come from. If you're a mere mortal who comes from England, you're lucky enough to have a UK passport, you don't have to pay tax. That's one of the good things about being an English poker player. That's why so many of the Scandinavian and French players are coming to live in London. Elke describes his nationality now as British, and Peter Eastgate lives in London now, and he tried to say when he won the World Series that he was a UK resident for tax reasons. Phil Ivey is in America, so he has to fill in a tax return at the end of the year. He can claim any losses from tournaments back against his winnings, but he has to pay tax on anything that's left over at the end of the year. The Canadian people, like Daniel Negreanu, they get tax deducted at source, and then they have to try and claim back anything against losses. So it's slightly complicated depending on which country you come from.
Thanks, Neil. Right, on to the next one. Ian Greaves asked, having read Daniel Negreanu's views on Sean Deeb and Annie Duke's attitude to the ladies-only event, it got me thinking about whether the tournament should be part of the WSOP. Given that statistics show that women represent anything from 3 to 10% of any playing field, this shows that maybe the playing field is not as level as people may think. Would Sean or Annie tell Tom McAvoy, TJ Cloutier or Barry Shulman that the seniors event should be scrapped on age equality?
Well, that's a real two-part question, isn't it? The women's events, first of all, I'm generally in favour of women's events. Anything that brings more women into the tournament must be a good thing. I think the question said that there were between 3 and 10% of the field are women in most tournaments. I think you'll find the figures are nearer to 3, 4 than 10. So anything that can get that number up is a good thing. On the other hand, I definitely agree that women can compete equally. There's some very good women players. The reason that they don't win all the bracelets is just sheer numbers, and if there were more women playing, I'm sure they'd win more bracelets. I quite like the idea of having a women's event at the World Series, but I would perhaps take away the bracelet from it and maybe have some other kind of prize, maybe some kind of jewellery that's not a bracelet. In terms of if Sean Deeb and Annie Duke were to suggest to the older guys that they couldn't have a seniors event, I like the idea of a seniors event. I quite like. Sometimes I get to a table and it's full of young people. There's not much conversation going on. They're all listening to their music, and whenever they do talk, they just want to talk about poker hands the whole time. No one ever has any conversation outside of that. I'm quite looking forward to the seniors event. It's not that far off, and I wouldn't want to see it scrapped. But again, maybe don't have a bracelet for these things. Maybe have some other kind of prize. I'll try and think of something non-sarcastic that old guys can have. A golden Zimmer frame. There we are. Perfect.